Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Decoding the Unknown. Today, Zardulu, urban legend maker or giant meta hoax. Never heard of this. Katie's going to inform me about it. That's the format of the show. Katie writes it, I read it. Let's jump in, shall we? Excuse me. My son is sick and I worry I'm getting his disease. That would be bad. I don't like getting diseases. I've had a remarkably winter-free, disease-free winter, touch wood. Look, we're all interconnected these days. If you're watching this, you're capable of using YouTube. I mean, maybe you're listening to it as a podcast and you've never heard of YouTube. If you're listening to this as a podcast, congrats, you're savvy enough to be able to do that. No doubt you're also online a fair amount of the day for other reasons, be it doom scrolling, trolling, wasting the finite amount of minutes you have left playing a match 3 game, or trying to work out what happened to that person you dated however many years ago. People just wasted their lives. Stop wasting your lives. Welcome to Motivation Monday with Simon. I dare say you also come across the occasional news story, or maybe even some slightly offbeat piece, that seems to unite a proportion of the population for scant few moments before we all break apart again. Yeah, it's like when someone who's a legend dies, where you're like, like someone everyone loved. And then you're like, rip to the goat. And everyone's like, yes. And then the next minute we're all back to being like, you and your stupid opinions. Just before we continue, quick word from today's fantastic sponsor, Incogni. If you ever wondered how scammers get your info, it's not magic. I'll tell you that much. It's data brokers. Data brokers collect and sell your personal information, which is rather crappy of them, isn't it? Take the recent BT Group ransomware breach. Thousands of people's data got exposed, and once it's out there, it can end up anywhere. Look, that's why you should use Incogni. They go after data brokers on your behalf, getting your personal info removed so you're not at risk. And it's not just breaches. Data brokers fuel robocalls, identity theft, even stalkers finding your home addresses online. If you're cleaning up data yourself, it could take hundreds of hours, but Incogni does it all for you automatically. Right now, you can get 60% off an annual plan with the code unknown at incogni.com/unknown. So take your personal data back. There's a link below. Thanks to Incogni for sponsoring. And now back to today's episode. These offbeat pieces are generally light in tone compared to the hellscape of our actual reality. Oh yeah, and nice people dying, and usually involve children and or animals. They are something apolitical that everyone who sees them can agree are funny or interesting enough to warrant spending a few seconds of our lives feeling slightly less awful. If they rack up enough views on social networks, this can bestow them with the title of going viral. If they then make the jump to larger news or entertainment networks such as BuzzFeed or genuine news channels, you can officially call them viral sensations. Is BuzzFeed really the arbiter of viral sensations anymore? Does BuzzFeed even exist anymore? What the BuzzFeed done lately? I'm sorry, BuzzFeed, but you used to be a big deal, and now no one knows you. Well, when I say officially, that's my personal definition, not a legal one, but I don't think I'm wrong. I don't know, Katie. BuzzFeed? Even if you're not chronically online, you might nod in fond remembrance of at least a couple of these unscripted viral hits from past years. Let's see how many of these I know. Charlie bit my finger. Yes. Star Wars kid. Yes. Keyboard cat. No. Jasmine Master saying, Anaoop. Yes. The dress. Yes. Left shark. No. Pizza rat. No. I like turtles. No. Moodeng the baby pygmy hippo, who has basically gone viral for being a baby hippo. No. And one of my favorites, BBC Dad. No. I feel like I was doing so well, and I don't know any of these other ones. This was from 2017, when Robert Kelly's, BBC Dad. Oh, I know this one then, when Robert Kelly's live video interview with BBC World was interrupted by his young daughter confidently bursting into his office, followed by his baby son enthusiastically cavorting along in his baby walker. Yeah, what I found so funny though, wasn't this like, it wasn't an office, it was just a spare bedroom, or his bedroom, and he's like trying to present this super serious segment. And did someone point out that he's just got random books stacked on his bed? Which is like, this is the sort of thing no one would have ever looked into, and then it's like his entire house, like, office bedroom is being dissected because this went so viral. His horrified wife then swung in on her knees to drag the pair out, all in full view of the camera. Good times. There was one example. I'll be like, oh, for fuck's sake, I'm on the BBC live. There was one example in that list that you may be less familiar with than the others, or maybe not if you lived anywhere near New York in 2015, which I happened to. Okay. We're talking about Pizza Rat. Okay. Oh wait, is this the rat that took that slice of pizza? Oh, I do know this one, but wasn't it faked? A man called Matt Little uploaded a video to YouTube titled New York City Rat Taking Pizza Home on the Subway. Pizza Rat TM. As you may have surmised from the title, the video, taken on his phone, shows a brown rat dragging a New York slice down several steps of a subway staircase before it hides from Little at the bottom of the stairs. It's confusing. Like, the guy's name is Little, right? But I keep thinking of Stuart Little. And I'm like, wait, is there a Stuart Little joke in there somewhere? What? It then pops out again, but it's unclear if it ever managed to take its prize all the way home. Do rats have homes? I guess they do. I guess they got a rat's nest, right? Because of how close Little got to it, plus the fact that it combines several New Yorkie themes into one short clip, not to mention all the Ninja Turtle references, Pizza Rat got millions of views within a couple of days, as well as being picked up and mentioned by online blogs and news sites. Yeah, it does seem as if this was basically engineered to go viral in New York City, and that's what it did. And it makes me think it was staged, and I do think it was, if I remember right. As of 2025, so 10 years later, the clip has over 12.5 million views on YouTube. I mean, that's pretty viral, but that's not like mega viral. This seems to be a genuine video of a real event, i.e. a man was walking down some subway steps late one night and happened to see a rat hefting a whole slice of pizza in front of him. So far, not that out of the ordinary. Rodents are common in underground stations, and pizza is common everywhere in New York City, so putting the two together doesn't really amount to anything that strange. Except, well, hold that thought for a moment. If Pizza Rat didn't totally steal the limelight for rodent fans on social media, another challenger soon stepped up to vie for the vermin crown. In November 2015, Selfie Rat made its debut. Ostensibly just a blurry close-up of the underside of a rat's nose and whiskers, it was the story behind Selfie Rat that helped it achieve the hallowed title of going viral. This one had a video to document the rat taking the selfie. Here's the scene. A commuter hanging around in the Crown Heights subway station sees a man sitting against a pillar taking 40 winks. He also sees a rat hanging around near the sleeping man and gets his phone out. What are you doing? There seems to be a homeless man, and there's a rat about to, go up to whatever, and you're like, oh, I'll take a picture of that. The pause. The rat climbs onto the man's lap, shudder, and manages to take an accidental selfie when it treads on the phone that the man has left lying on his leg. The man wakes up, sees the rat, jumps up, and has to keep getting close to the rat again as he manages to drop his phone at least twice in his haste to get out of there. He later checked his phone and saw the memento his furry friend had left him. Thus, Selfie Rat was born. If you're smelling a rat here, so to speak, we'll come back to these. But first, let's move on to Pitta Rats. In January 2016, 2 months after Selfie Rat, which itself was 2 months after Pizza Rat, a woman called Laura Dooch was at another subway station in Herald Square and videoed 2 rats cooperatively trying to drag a large, round, whole piece of pita bread up the subway stairs. This feels less engineered than the last one. Like, the New York pizza slice just feels so stereotypically New York, and the rats and the subway, that just feels engineered, whereas pita, you're kind of like, okay, yeah, people would use... This feels more natural because it's not an escalation of the previous one. It's a de-escalation. And if you want to engineer something to go viral, you got to escalate. You can't be like, that's a slightly worse version of. It's got to be a better version of. And speaking of better versions of things, this drink is called Gamer Subs, and it's a better version of all those energy drinks that you've been drinking. It's cheaper as well. It comes in powdered form, so it's very compact. You order it at... I got a link for you guys. gamersubs.gg/unknown, and just check it out. It's dosed with caffeine, or if you don't like caffeine because you're an idiot, you can get one without caffeine as well. I basically don't drink water anymore, which sounds bad, but I love it. And I drink a lot more. I stay a lot more hydrated just because water, you're kind of like, meh. But when it's got flavor, you just go for it. gamersubs.gg/unknown. Thank you so much. Support the show. Love you. After making a little headway, a small piece falls off and they end up just taking that away instead. Dooch said in a later interview about the whole viral rat video trend, "I'm not looking to have a viral video. I never was, but I just thought that I could not film that." Fair enough. Most people would probably have done the same. Not me, though. I think I would be trying to work out how I could get back in sunlight without having to go past 2 rats on the same stairway, the blood pounding in my ears the entire time. Yeah, I'm not particularly afraid of rats. I don't like snakes. Snakes are kind of scary. But also, like, rats, what are they going to do? Bite you and then you'll be like, oh, okay, I gotta go get a rabies jab or whatever. Depending on where you are. Do rats have rabies in New York? Probably not. Or like whatever diseases. You just be like, okay, let me Google that. Whereas if you get bit by a snake, you're like, uh-oh. This is bad. Let's move away from rats now, thank goodness, and take a look at a few other animal stories that... What are we talking about today? Zardulu? What is this? Why are we talking about rats that have hit the headlines in the same period that we just mentioned? In June 2015, a few months before Pizza Rat, a man called Richard Jones, which feels like the most generic name ever, sorry Richard, and his family were walking about in a national forest in Florida when they saw an alligator in the river. Richard's son then apparently startled a raccoon out of hiding, which leaped into the river and happened to land on the alligator. It jumped off after a second and ran away. If this sounds far-fetched, Richard managed to take a snap of the gator-riding raccoon, which was made public for all the world to see. Did you guys see that one of that pig saving, I can't remember what it was, but there's that pig in the pond, and it's swimming along, and it saves like a mouse or whatever, and it's like the hero pig. And I'm like, I see that video. Years later, I'm watching the TV show Nathan For You, and it turns out that it was just entirely a setup. And I was like, oh, whoa. I completely missed the follow-up, and it was just engineered virality from the Nathan For You TV show. I can't even remember what he was doing in that episode. Great TV show, by the way. Definitely worth a watch. The picture did the rounds on social media, often with the sentiment along the lines of "meanwhile in Florida," and the raccoon getting photoshopped into various other situations. It also made the news sites, although some, including the BBC, presented it as a bit of an oddity without speculating on whether it was a genuine moment or not. We need to get BBC Verify on this. It also drew comparisons to a photo snapped in London a few months earlier of a weasel riding on a woodpecker. What? How big is a fucking woodpecker? Weasels are quite big. How's it ride a woodpecker? That's like my son being like, can I ride a cat? He's like, no. You weigh like 18 kilos. You can't ride a cat. In October 2015, the world was introduced to bagel pigeon, which, as you might be able to guess, was a photo of a pigeon perched on a railing somewhere in Midtown, wearing half a bagel like a necklace. Pigeons are weird, dude. Because of the proximity in time to Pizza Rat, this image popped up 2 months later. Almost every outlet that carried the story made comparisons such as "move over Pizza Rat, here comes Bagel Pigeon" from NBC, and Bagel Pigeon is giving Pizza Rat serious competition from HuffPost. You know, important reporting there, NBC and HuffPo. Really good stuff. I mean, look, here we are, but I'm not pretending to be HuffPo or NBC. Food and Wine speculated that it might even be more New York than Pizza Rat, but I personally disagree. Nah, I know bagels are pretty New York, but they're not New York like pizza slices. Back in Brooklyn, another strange animal story was making waves around the same time as Selfie Rat, i.e. November 2015. In an event not totally unlike something from The Simpsons, a man fishing in the Gowanus Canal, or rather, as per the New York Times, the murky tainted depths of the Gowanus Canal in Brooklyn, managed to hook up a surprising catch, a catfish with 3 eyes, the extra one being on top of its head. I mean, that's not going to be that... Stuff. People are born with deformities, animals are born with deformities, pretty often, although it is interesting, and it is very Simpsons-esque. The video, which is initially sent to Gothamist, a New York-based news blog, which showed the cameraman approaching the Garner Bridge with a fishing line. The man behind the camera had been told that there was a 3-eyed fish on the bridge, so he'd come to take a look, and voila, a dead catfish is lying by the fisherman's feet with a 3rd eye on top of its head. Alright, got a picture of it. I'm having a look. You'll probably also see it on the screen now. I can't imagine that this eye is functional, right? It's probably just a weird growth that looks like an eye, or, you know, it's not going to work. The fisherman does not venture any further details and doesn't seem especially excited by the catch, which deflates the cameraman's enthusiasm a bit. There is also something that looks suspiciously like pita bread on the ground next to the fish. Was it used as bait? Or, yeah, there it is. Why is the pita bread there? Or was it maybe a connection to the forthcoming pita rats? I lived in an area of Brooklyn for a while that I'd only left a couple of weeks earlier, so I missed out on the local news story. If not of the year, then definitely of the day. This story also achieved viral success, with multiple other news outlets picking it up, although some more skeptical than others, with the New York Magazine hedging its bets with a headline of, "Was a 3-eyed catfish really caught in the Gowanus Canal?" So here are another couple of examples of strange viral stories that caught the media's attention. In December... What is a Zardulu, Katie? What's going on? I mean, I'm enjoying myself, but... Where's the Zardulu? What is that? In December 2017's Spanish-language channel Telemundo somehow sounds like the most Spanish-named channel ever. Like, I feel like Telemundo. I had a video taken in Miami of a large iguana that a man found in his toilet. In the video, the man says he went to use the loo, sat down, felt something, and realized he had been bitten by giant iguana. How did he even get in there? And yes, it was on the ball sack. He jumped up and saw a 2-foot-long iguana in the bowl that he likened to Godzilla. How desperately do you need to take a shit that you don't see a 2-foot iguana in the toilet that you're about to sit down on? He dropped the lid and ran out of there. He then returned with a camera or someone else filming, lifted the lid, and the huge lizard flails around before eventually managing to clamber out. An older relative who lives with him tried to scare it away by waving a hairbrush at it, and it eventually makes its way out of the house for destinations unknown. Why did it go in there? It's just like thirsty or something? No one knows how it got in there in the first place, but one theory is that a neighbor tried to get rid of it down the toilet first, and it climbed in through the pipes. I don't think that's possible. It's a 2-foot iguana. How's it getting around that? Is it called an S-bend or a U-bend? You know, the thing with the water trap in it? I don't think so, dudes. I think it came in through the door or whatever and was just thirsty and climbed into the toilet bowl. Why would you think it came in through the pipes? It is in Miami. Miami's hot, so there's probably like iguanas rolling around. Lastly, in March 2018, a bizarre creature washed up on a beach in southeast Georgia, USA. From the shore video, it looks like a kind of mini Loch Ness monster, or what I imagine the Loch Ness monster could look like, with what appears to be intestines or its innards hanging out. It's dead and decaying, but you can make out a flipper, a tail, and a long neck. That's grim. Oh, there's a picture. That is grim. Ugh. The strange remains gained traction online, but the specimen was never formally identified as, while photos were sent to the Georgia Department of Natural Resources, who even passed them on to the Smithsonian. The creature had disappeared by the time anyone went to look at it. Alright, so we've got some stories involving animals that set corners of the internet and even news outlets alight for brief moments. But so what? Doesn't that kind of thing happen all the time? Well, here's where the story gets interesting, because when is something real? If it seems reasonable, if you can see it, if you can touch it, if you can personally experience it in some way, what if you find out that that thing was in fact completely engineered? Would that make it less real? Would your experience be poorer or richer, knowing that something out of the ordinary was created to bring you joy? I don't know. I don't feel like this is that complicated of a question. It's like, no, if it's engineered, it's not real. If someone sticks a fake eye on top of a catfish and fishes it out of the river and is like, oh my god, look at this 3-eyed catfish. It's like you're entertained until you realize it's faked, and then you're like, okay, that's disappointing. I don't know. I don't think there's a bigger question here other than just, all right, next. I'm so tainted. The internet's just like, yeah, next. Show me something else, internet. Oh, I'm not entertained. In this episode, we're going to be finding out about the mythmaker / art hoaxer / viral trickster known as Zardulu. And there may be more levels to decode than first meets the eye. Wait, is one person behind all of this? Thanks to YouTube commenter Pomshka, who suggested this ages ago and summed it up nicely by saying, if there's something weird and unexplainable that goes viral, chances are that it's Zardulu. 3 exclamation marks followed that, no less. So yes, all of the above-mentioned examples have either been claimed or credited to the mysterious artist known as Zardulu. So let's go deeper into this pizza rattle. Zardulu? Zardulu first crossed my and probably any other person who's heard of her's radar thanks to an episode of the much-missed podcast Reply All. Oh, I remember that. Wasn't that one of those shows from the Planet Money dude? Whatever happened to that? Didn't it get sold to Spotify for like $1 billion? Damn. Then why is that not around anymore? The story was featured in episode 56, which came out in February 2016 after the initial rash of rat activity. Alex Goldman, that's the dude, investigated the story and found out that yes, Selfie Rat was definitely the work of someone going by the pseudonym of Zardulu. She also had claimed credit for Pizza Rat, although Matt Little, who took the video, claims it was completely genuine, but we can see where it might have been a staged thing later on. As far as I know, she hasn't claimed the Pitter Rats as her own, but due to the similarity of the circumstances, this video in comparison to Pizza Rat and Selfie Rat, as well as a couple of other points we'll come to later, I think the chances are pretty high that this was also one of Zardulu's works. I don't think so. I think the Selfie Rat seems like a step up in terms of interest from Pizza Rat. Potentially. You could see it that way. Whereas Pitter Rat is a clear, less interesting step down, which I don't think this person would have done because you want to ramp things up, as I said. So I actually think the Pitter Rat one is genuine. I'm curious why Katie thinks different. Obviously, she's done the research, so she probably knows, but let's carry on. While her activity appears to have peaked in the 20-teens, Zardulu did maintain a presence on social media for a while, although her Facebook page hasn't been updated since 2021, and her last post on X was in November 2023. Her X account, or Twitter as it was known then, was activated in September 2015, right in the middle of all the rat stuff. For someone who wanted to create viral moments, it seemed she did want people to realize it was her after all. Well, sort of. It seems that in order to fully appreciate these moments, you did need to know that someone was behind them. This then made any future similar stories a bit more fun, as you could speculate whether it was really a pigeon standing there randomly with a bagel round its neck, or whether this was in fact a carefully curated scene set up by an urban legend maker. For the record, Zardulu's X profile is sorcerer, soothsayer, painter, sculptor, writer, proto-AI disinformation artist, preeminent video, photo, and story fabricator. Wow, does that fit into however many characters you're allowed? Seems like a lot. Anyone who has their profile with the description as sorcerer and soothsayer, immediately are like, ugh, cringe. I'm not gonna like you. Her current picture is someone wearing a bearded mask and an elaborate robe obscured behind some glass or screen. Also, the sort of thing that I just see and I'll be like, I'm not gonna like you. There are two sets of arms pressing forward, one feminine and one masculine. This is actually quite an arty setup from her previous incarnations, one of which was a robed figure wearing a goat head, and her original profile pic, which was quite a lo-fi looking person in a papier-mâché mask. We presume they're female, as you can see long pink hair, evidence of boobs under the robe, and nice hands with black pointy nails. For ease of reference, nice hands, because all men have horrible hands. And I'm not even joking, my hands are really dry and cracked. It's winter, I get terribly dry hands in winter. They crack, it's very unpleasant. You got ugly man hands. For ease of reference, I shall continue to label Zardulu as a woman. She's wearing a wide-sleeved purple outfit with gold embroidery and a purple and gold hat that reminds you of something Zoltar, the animatronic fortune teller in Big, would wear. Oh! I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but I do! Is that the movie where Tom Hanks is a boy and then he becomes an adult and they have a kick-ass treehouse? Is that Big? Or is that Jack? That could be Jack. I think that's actually Jack. I don't know what Big is. My bad. Wait, is that Jack? Oh, wait, it's not Tom Hanks. It's Robin Williams. Oh my God, it's not even relevant. Move on. Why did I think it was Tom Hanks? That makes no sense. The mask has tufts of woolly hair stuck on it to make eyebrows and a beard. She's standing in front of what looks like a plain green bedsheet and is holding a golden staff topped with a cutout of a rat eating its own tail. It looks deliberately shonky, but also you get the idea that this might have been the best they could do at the time. It was because of the attention Zardulu was getting from the Reply All episode that she started the social media sites in the first place, posting inspirations of Hoax's past, such as the Cardiff Giant, and also giving hints of which viral animal story was of her making. She was also outed as being behind the selfie rat in January 2016 by John de Signore on the Gothamist site. The man who had jumped up after the rat crawled on him in the subway and took a photo on his phone was one Eric Yearwood. Anonymous source contacted Gothamist to say that the selfie rat was a hoax and that Eric Yearwood was the man in the video. When Del Signore contacted Yearwood about it, he admitted he was in a staged video and spilled the beans on having been contacted by a mysterious person named Zardulu. Okay, so Pizza Rat, this one behind them, I still don't think Pizza Rat is. He was also interviewed on Reply All, where he told host Alex Goldman that he'd been attempting but failing to live his New York acting dream when he'd been contacted out of the blue by an email from Zardulu. She said she'd pay him a couple $100 to be involved in a video, but neither of them would rat each other out, so to speak. Yearwood was a member of the Upright Citizens Brigade, or UCB, which is a theatre school that teaches sketch and improv comedy skills, but he had no idea how or why Zardulu picked him. Wait. Oh, okay. I'm like, wasn't this a homeless guy? Well, no, he's an actor pretending to be a homeless guy. That makes sense. All right. I've heard of Upright Citizens Brigade, so it must be quite famous. He went to her studio, where he found a load of trained rats going through a little obstacle course, and even doing things like swimming across a little pool to get to certain objects. Zardulu is a weird person. They were originally going to do the selfie rat piece in a subway car, but couldn't find an empty one that would work for the third person filming the encounter at a distance, so Yearwood just had to pretend to fall asleep on the platform instead. And yes, when you watch the video, it does look extremely not natural. Eric Yearwood, bless him, isn't that great of an actor in this footage. I mean, maybe everyone was fooled, weren't they? If I were him, I definitely would not add this to my audition reel. He leaps up unconvincingly for someone having a supposed wild rat crawling on him. Then he has to lean down again twice to retrieve the phone that he keeps fumbling. The rat, instead of scarpering, just sits there the whole time. The photo was a real rat selfie, though. The phone was left unlocked with the camera on and some peanut butter on the shutter button. That's so clever. This was quite early on in Zardulu's slew of public antics, and Yeowardell's reply, or that his little cameo was just one little act the artist was dropping. He says, quote, "She has a big vision, and she was describing the project as a puzzle piece, in this grand tapestry of illusions that she wants to create in New York City." All right, chill. It's just a rat. It's just a rat on a phone. He went on to say that there were all sorts of, quote, industrial stuff, geometric shapes that she had cobbled together from iron and wood, and there was a big suit made of hair. It looked like human hair. It didn't look like fur. So that was bizarre. Yes, indeed, my dude. Bizarre indeed, the article was published in Gothamist, and it was under the title, "Was Pizza Rat a Hoax?" which immediately posed the question as to whether everyone's little favourite pizza hauler was, in fact, just another rat trained by Zardulu. Matt Little, who was the person who videoed Pizza Rat, I can't believe you can train rats. I mean, I guess so, but they're just little tiny brains. Had maintained the stance that it was not staged at all, and he and his friend Pat Bear were just walking to the subway late one night and happened upon the creature doing his thing. John de Sognore, the author of the Gothamist piece, contacted Little before running his article with the angle that he knew it was a fake video, so if Little wanted to have any say in it, he'd have to contact him immediately. Speaking to Reply All, Matt Little said it was, quote, "very flattering that he thought I was smart enough to fool the entire world this way." He even then goes on to express disbelief that anyone would have the time or inclination to either bother faking something like this. Yeah, I kind of said that I believed this was a fake. I don't know if I do. I definitely think the second one was, and been admitted to, because it's a step up from something that might have occurred naturally, or maybe was a fake. And I still think the Pitta Rat one is not. That's just rats eating pitta. It just is. I'm sure it happens a lot. While Little has always said the footage was not a hoax, he is also a member of the Upright Citizens Brigade. Oh, come on then. It's a big indicator that, It should also be pointed out that Del Signore says another anonymous source who signed an NDA with Zardulu was also a member of the UCB. Does this mean anything? It might or it might not. I mean, it's definitely indicative that he was involved. So he was a part of this thing where she clearly recruits people, and the other people had to sign an NDA. Well, he probably just signed an NDA and he doesn't want to get sued. Apparently, there are many, many people attached to the UCB, and PJ Voigt, the other host of Reply All, says that theatre is huge. There's like thousands of people associated with it. Two people, both being quote-unquote UCB people, is like two people having gone to the same, like, mid to large size university. Well, thousands of people is not a mid-size university. That is a very small university. And I don't know, it doesn't seem that New York's got millions and millions of people. It definitely is an indicator that it's not real. It's absolutely circumstantial, and it just pushes you towards that conclusion. But I don't think it should be just dismissed that easily. Alright, so maybe that aspect is just a coincidence, or maybe Zardulu is intentionally seeking out people from UCB because they fit her criteria of needing someone with a background in acting and probably comedy, as these stunts aren't exactly deathly serious pronouncements or anything like that. For the record, Little's friend Pat Bayer is yet another UCB member. At this point, you might also be wondering who would bother taking the time and effort to stage something as banal as this for zero payoff. Dude, welcome to the internet. People do all sorts of stupid, banal, complicated for absolutely zero payoff other than internet points and internet fame. Who cares if a rat wants some pizza or accidentally takes a photo of itself? Well, exactly, it's hardly news, and yet here we are talking about these things which did manage to tap into something at the time. Yeah, here we are talking about it literally 10 years later. Del Signore did manage to correspond a bit with Zardulu, who does not always respond to queries. This quote comes from the article Was Pizza Rat a Hoax? Reached by email, Zardulu did not deny involvement in the Pizza Rat or Selfie Rat videos, but refused to discuss her work. I'm not interested in an interview, and I'm not interested in the story. Zardulu continued, I anticipated a betrayal, as I was threatened with such, but not from anyone with this email. I think there are better stories to tell. Why wake the world from a beautiful dream when the waking world is all so drab? It's also possible that while Little might have thought the pizza rat was real, Zardulu was pulling the strings the whole time. Eric Yearwood, the selfie rat man, had seen her rat training set up firsthand and thought it more than possible that it was a Zardulu stunt. In reply, he rewatches the pizza rat video and says, well, I have to say, the main rat that Zardulu uses is named Whiskers, and that did look somewhat like Whiskers. Zardulu's capable of doing things that you can't even imagine, and so the possibility that some people took a video that they didn't know was created by Zardulu, it's not beyond the realm of imagination. End quote. Interestingly, Zardulu has never claimed credit for the Pita Rats video, and even when speaking to Reply All about it, Laura Deutsch, who filmed the two rats trying to take a pita bread home, didn't think there was anything fake about the scene. However, in talking about it, Alex Goldman's producer cuts in to ask, perchance, if there had been anyone else around when she was filming, to which Deutsch responds, Now, if you've seen the video, there is a man to the side who is talking to the rats and waving something in their general direction. Deutsch just thought it was a homeless man at the time and totally ignored what he was doing. You can't see that much of him or clearly make out what he's saying, but the fact that there's someone there interacting with the rats does cast doubt on how natural the scene is. I don't know. People are weird. People are weird. It doesn't not a reason to get your phone out. Not get your phone out. I think this is, I don't know, it still seems quite natural to me. Not that I've actually seen the video, but I got benefit of the doubt on this one. I think it's real. Alex Goldman also says that Deutsch told him there was also a woman standing near her at the bottom of the stairs who was asking people not to get too close so Laura could film. Whoa. Okay. Pita Rat does seem more staged by the minute. Yeah, that seems pretty staged. Like, stand back please, we're filming. Let's leave the rats alone again and circle back around to some of the other stories. Zardulu claimed credit for her bagel pigeon by posting a photo of a taxidermied pigeon with a bagel round its neck in front of one of her papier-mâché masks and a booklet called The Founding and Manifesto of Zardulism by Zardulu. This was about 6 months after the original bagel pigeon picture came out. There's also evidence on her X profile of being behind the three-eyed catfish in the Gowanus Canal. In April 2016, about 5 months after that story, she posted a screen grab from a news piece about it. This came a couple of weeks after Zardulu was outed again in a New York Times article titled The Artist Behind the Three-Eyed Fish and Selfie Rat and Other Hoaxes by Andy Newman. In this article, Newman heard from a man called Greg Boz, who was described as an improviser and comedian. Although it doesn't say if he was a member of the Upright Citizens Brigade, UCB. Boz confirms that for $100 he was given 5 taxidermied catfish, each with a fake extra eye stuck on top of their head. He was supposed to hang out on the bridge with a fishing rod and pretend he'd just caught it. He also says that the man in the video that ended up going viral is not him, so presumably he was an even worse actor than our man Eric Yearwood. Andy Newman also... Poor Eric. Poor Eric. Maybe it's just bad direction. Andy Newman also posted a photo of Boz's 5 fish to his Twitter account the day after the story came out, along with another photo showing the underside of one of the fish, where you can see Zardulu written in gold, so I think it's clear that she was definitely behind this one. Yes, no doubt, or someone pretending to be her. Either way, definitely fake. And despite the uncertainty around Pizza Rat, when Newman got in contact with Zardulu via email, she did hint that she was indeed behind it, telling him, "One day I might be hiding behind or around a corner, coaxing a rat to drag something down a staircase." Alright, why be so cryptic? It's been years. Wait, when was that happening? There's no date, but it's okay. I feel like it's almost like Banksy-esque. It's cool to have this mystery around it, but we also want to know. Deeper and deeper we go. Alright, now that we got the main gist of this down, let's go off in a couple of other directions. The first one is a path I didn't even think of until I randomly scrolled through Zardulu's media feed. You might not remember this, and I wrote it as a throwaway line a few minutes ago, but the raccoon on the alligator photo was likened by media outlets to the weasel on woodpecker photo taken by Martin LeMay in East London in 2015. I don't understand the weasel on woodpecker. There's no shot! I got a picture of it here. There is no shot that is real. There is no way. Birds can't carry that much weight. I'm sorry, that's not happening. Well, in July 2017, more than 2 years later, who should post a photo of a masked wizard holding a taxidermied weasel attached to a woodpecker? You guessed it, Zardulu. Wait, she This is international. This is happening in London. She also posted a couple of close-ups of what seems like test shots of the tableau from a digital camera screen. This can mean one of two things. One, the viral sensation that was Weasel on Woodpecker was, in fact, a faked scene created by Zardulu with or without Martin LeMay's knowledge, although how he could not have known it was fake seems a bit preposterous. I mean, come on. This is not real. You could ask any bird person, like, yo, can a woodpecker carry a weasel like that? And they'd be like, the woodpecker's only capable of achieving so much lift. And you'd be like, okay, perfect, thank you. Sorted. It's not a magical woodpecker. This is not happening. Maybe Zardulu or someone was hiding in the trees and lobbed the den animals in front of LeMay, or maybe there was a fishing line strung between two strategic points or something. Anyway, it doesn't seem likely that he wouldn't have been in on it. I did contact him via Facebook to see what he had to say either way, but he hasn't got back to me yet, so I guess we'll never know for sure. Zardulu hasn't got back to me yet. I feel like, I don't know, I get so many messages, so many emails, so many like DMs of people like, oh, he hasn't got back to me yet. And it's like, bruh, I'm not getting back to you. I'm not getting back to you. I'm really sorry. I'm just not. Zardulu also doubles down on this one with a couple more behind-the-scenes stills posted in July 2020, tagging Nat Geo. She then triples down. Her last post on the platform in January 2023 was another photo of the taxidermied animals with the caption, "Going through my archive of hundreds of post-truth works." Anyone recognize this famous couple? So yes, it sure seems like she's trying to take credit for this. However, on closer inspection, I'm not so sure. The woodpecker is noticeably different, with Zardulu's having a large red patch under its eye, which is a thinner red line in LeMay's photo. This leads me to point number 2. Zardulu is claiming credit for things that she did not do. Ooh, okay, but this is still fake. It's still fake. There's no way that weasel riding that woodpecker is real. I believe, in this case, she retroactively mocked up the scene to either pretend it had been her all along or to prove that she could have faked it if she'd thought of it first. I mean, okay, it's not a big deal. I could fake that if I'd thought of it. Of course I could. You just go get a woodpecker, like a dead woodpecker taxidermy, and a weasel taxidermy, smash them into each other, use some glue, boom, blur it up, use Midjourney. Or maybe to throw doubt on the authenticity of the original shot, even if she had nothing to do with it. Zardulu does seem to operate primarily in the US and New York in particular, so a random stunt in a peaceful area of East London doesn't really fit her MO. Still, if it does turn out to have been her, I think I would be more delighted than anything else. Yeah, I think that'd be cool. I don't think it is, but I think it would be cool. To follow this thread, can we actually confirm that Zardulu is behind any of these things that we've just spent however long? 40 minutes talking about, or were they all just random happenstance, and she has managed to forge a reputation for having conjured them up? Well, we know that Selfie Rat and Catfish were hoaxes. The sea monster was too, as it pops up in an exhibition that we'll talk about in a minute. Thanks to the whole weasel and woodpecker debacle, I'm kind of doubting the raccoon on the alligator now. I mean, the raccoon definitely looks a bit stuffed in the photo, and Zardulu did post a photo of her holding the 2 taxidermied animals, but again, it could possibly have been something she did later, after the real event happened. I do think it's fake, but it's obviously not, to me, as preposterous as a weasel riding a bird. There is always a lag between the event and any claim, so she probably has time to create the fake prop. Although I have no idea how long it would take to stuff a small alligator and a raccoon. Not very much, you just buy them on the internet. I don't think she'd be doing the stuffing herself necessarily. That's a whole other expertise. I also have thoughts on bagel pigeon. Yes, she posted a photo of a stuffed pigeon with a bagel round its neck, but if you compare the pigeon with the photo of the original bagel pigeon, I can easily be convinced that they're 2 different birds. I don't know how easy or hard it is to change the position of an animal once it's been stuffed. I imagine not easy, but the pigeon on Zardulu's Twitter is standing on a flat surface with its tail behind it. OG bagel pigeon is perched on a railing with its tail hanging down. There is also some white stuff around Bagel Pigeon's eye that is missing from Zardulu's pigeon, and the bagel it's wearing looks plain, while Zardulu's has poppy seeds and sesame seeds on it. Now, I know I shouldn't be hungry hearing about this, but I'm like, bagels. Now sure, both things could still be true. Zardulu could have been behind Pigeon Bagel and Weasel and Woodpecker, and could have shown alternative or different versions of the props on her Twitter feed. Yeah, but why? Why would she? Why would she have 2 of these things? I mean, possible, but in my view, unlikely. Could she have just jumped onto something and claimed credit to add to her mythos, or when she didn't actually have anything to do with either? Not that that's necessarily a negative thing when you're setting out your stall as an urban magic mythmaker. In a conversation prior to a gallery show opening in 2018, Zardulu corresponded via email with journalist Sarah Cascone and gave an excellent summary about managing to score so many viral hits. Quote, "My greatest challenge has always been to create them before reality beats me to it, or perhaps it's something more. I don't think I create a false reality. I'm crafting a reality that hasn't happened yet." There's never going to be a weasel riding a woodpecker. It's not happening. I'm finishing the sentences on the tip of reality's tongue. There's never been a weasel on a woodpecker on the tip of reality's tongue, Zardulu. The quote ends. Obviously, that last bit wasn't a quote. You know what I mean? Zardulu as an artist is such a contradiction. There is a much deeper level to some of the pranks she's pulled over the public and the media in particular, but also there's such a childish and silly element to most of them that it wipes the deeper meaning out. Let's take Toilet Iguana as an example. If you recall, a man was bitten on the nethers by an iguana in his toilet, a pretty silly story. This was staged by Zardulu, and videos of the news broadcast were even entered as a submission to Miami Art Week in 2017. The piece was titled "The Usurpation of Uranos." Alright then. Andy Newman, who gave us the Gowanus catfish story, also wrote a piece about the toilet iguana for the New York Times. Here's what he had to say about this. Quote, "The iguana escapade," Zardulu said, "retells the myth of Kronos, who rebels against his father Uranos." Urinal. Who has imprisoned his children in the underworld. Kronos rises from the underworld, castrates Uranos, and seizes the throne. Underworld throne. You get it. Alright. I mean, this sounds like, you know, when you're in like high school, secondary school, GCSE English, and they're like, well, what's the author trying to say between the lines? And you're like, I don't fucking know. Can't I just enjoy the book? Jesus Christ. So there you go. A much deeper meaning behind the story. On theartnewspaper.com, Helen Stoilis gives us some more background on the links between the two, explaining in a video the iguana plays the role of Kronos, Zardulu explains, adding that the god's rule was credited with bringing a golden age to Greece. So this piece is not only symbolic, but also a ritual designed to usher us into a time of peace and prosperity of our own. I hate this shit. When it's like, so what have you done for your modern art project? I took a shit on a plate. And how's the modern art? Well, it represents the passing of society through something that takes something beautiful and turns it into human feet. And you're like, just shut the fuck up. It's a shit on a plate. And then the piece was accompanied by a hilarious childlike drawing of an iguana biting a man's balls. I really hope this is just her making fun of modern art rather than it actually being something that is seriously trying to be, serious art, because it's super cringe. It's hilarious if not the case. It's super cringe if that is the case, that she wants it to be real art. The headlines generated from this stunt range from the speculative, "How do so many iguanas get in Florida toilet bowls?" from the Tampa Bay Times, to the ridiculous, such as "Bearded drag queen bitten in balls by iguana" from Unilad. I suppose it's worth pointing out that yes, the man involved in this stunt is a drag artist with a beard, Gio Prefera. Other exhibits in the gallery show included... Wait, so he doesn't have balls? No, he does have balls. Wait, drag artist. Drag artists are just men who pretend to be women, or can that also be women who pretend to be men? I'm so confused. I don't understand. Other exhibits in the gallery show included the raccoon on the... I don't think women who pretend to be men are drag artists. So this is a man who's pretending to be a woman, which makes sense about the ball biting. For a moment there, I was like, wait, he's got a beard and... does he have balls? He doesn't. He does have balls. Other exhibits in the gallery include the raccoon on the alligator under the title of Shores of the Acheron, which is a river in Hades, the underworld in Greek mythology, and Ketos Troios, which refers to a sea monster, also of Greek myth. This was Zardulu's fake monster that supposedly washed up on the shore in Georgia. There are also a couple of other stories she's claimed credit for that we haven't already mentioned, namely a man finding his lost prosthetic leg in a beaver dam, which was entitled Hegesistratus' Sacrifice, presumably after an ancient Greek who cut off his own foot to escape his shackles, and a chicken smoking a cigar. This one was given the title The Chasm at Delphi, which relates to an ancient time story of a deep chasm releasing vapors that the oracle at Delphi would inhale and then be able to give her prophecies. But also, it's just a chicken with a cigar in its beak. Yeah, it really is. It's a chicken with a cigar in its beak. Stop trying to be clever, please. Maybe I'm just not clever enough, but I just find this whole try-hard thing to be just so cringe. And I don't know. I know people who like this, and they're like, "Oh yeah, and you're like, Stop. These exhibits were represented either with taxidermied tableau or models, and in fact the weasel and woodpecker made a cameo appearance on the same stand as a beaver holding a prosthetic leg. In this version, the weasel is turned so that it would be facing the camera if the woodpecker were flying to the left. In the original photo by Martin LeMay, the head of the weasel is turned away from the camera. I still don't know what to think about this one. I think she is taking credit for someone else, like random place in East London, something different. Kind of looks like the thing she did, and there's no way to prove it. I think credit for someone for... It's not credit for someone else's work. It's just a photo that someone took, and they've never come forward to be like, I did that. It's just... I don't know, it's just a bit silly, isn't it? I think it's fair to say on the face of these stories, nobody's thinking about ancient Greek myths or oracles or anything. They're just briefly amused by a photo of a chicken doing something human. So only when you know that these events have been staged, that you then can go down your own rabbit holes and find out about what inspired them, which really can only be a good thing. And speaking of rabbit, can it be a good thing? I found out that it was all inspired like Greek mythology or whatever, in some sort of cringy, not really trying to sound clever way. I don't feel that was a good thing. I feel like I was just like, I just got a bit cringed in it. Speaking of rabbit holes, here's the last one we're going to dive down today, but it's also a bit of a doozy. Is Zardulu even real? We know that Zardulu is behind these urban art stories, and she's presenting as a masked female who lives in New York. But what if Zardulu isn't actually this person, but someone else, or even a whole collective under that name? We have mentioned the Upright Citizens Brigade and know that at least 3 people involved in various rap videos were members, which may or may not be a coincidence. This is also the kind of thing that I imagine like improv sketch comedy people would be into, because they have weird senses of humor. I like sketch improv, but improv people are a little bit odd. They just are. Personally, I'm more than a little suspicious of selfie rap man Eric Yearwood. He waxes on a bit too lyrical about everything he saw and learned in Zardulu's studio, and sure, he might be milking his 15 minutes of meta fame, but he overhypes the whole thing to an extent that it just seems a bit fake. Toward the end of the reply all segment, he says, it's a good thing that Zardulu is using her powers for good, because if she were to use her powers for evil, that would not be good. Alright dude, chill. What's she gonna do? Like, she's gonna murder people and taxidermy them in their basement? I mean, maybe. That'd be creepy. When asked to give a doomsday scenario by Alex Goldman, he says, well, a doomsday scenario would be that Zardulu is using her abilities to create myths to completely disorient our federal government. Bro. This all just feels of people who think they're more important than they are. I'm sorry. All of the utilities in the city, all of our metropolitan infrastructure, mass hysteria, people's lives being upended, just panic in the streets. I think Zardulu could cause complete Armageddon. Bruh, no. Just no. Please stop. It's embarrassing. Maybe a tad much for someone involved in one video featuring a tame rat and a bit of peanut butter, but there you go. Yeah, I was a bit more mean than Katie, but I still think I'm right. There is also cause to be suspicious of Matt Little of Pizza Rat fame. While he has continually denied any involvement from other sources in the video he took, he is still more than happy to talk about the Zardulu aspects of it and even deflects attention away from himself when asked by Alex Goldman if he might have been, quote, an unwitting pawn in some kind of massive Zardulu illusion or micro Zardulu illusion. Alright, so you could just say any illusion. It could be massive or tiny. So, everything, Alex? I like Alex Goldman. No, I'm not giving him a hard time. Although I don't know what he's up to now. Just probably chilling on an island somewhere. And by islands, I mean his own island, because he's surely ungodly rich by now. Matt says that he wouldn't be able to tell, and then asked Alex, are you Zardulu? If you're Zardulu, you have to tell me it's the law. Alex Goldman says he'd love to have the vision Zardulu has, but he doesn't, so he's not Zardulu. At which point, Little just replies, yeah. God, this is compelling stuff. If I were Alex Goldman, I think I would have asked if Little was Zardulu and what his reaction would have been. He'd probably just be like, no, yeah, maybe. It all points to a bigger story about Greek mythology. Shut the f*** up. Another name attached to the story is Greg Boz, who was involved in the Three-Eyed Catfish story. Here's where these supposedly unrelated strands start to come together. According to a piece on HuffPost by Hilary Hansen, Boz and Eric Yearwood know each other in real life, have worked on UCB projects together, and have been friends on Facebook since 2015. Alright. According to Boz, though, the fact that they were both involved in separate Zardulu projects is just a coincidence. An email from Zardulu To Gothamists, John Del Signore seeks to break the link, suggesting Yearwood, Little and Boz are actually part of the hoax. She said, I've come to realise that the group of improv artists I connected with over last year or two has begun to unravel. They are looking to gain notoriety by connecting themselves to my works. I'm all very, very skeptical about all of this. These words are starting to ring hollow now, though, when even more information comes to light. According to emails between Yearwood and Del Signore, Yearwood actually met Zardulu 3 times, and totally weird stuff happened each time. In their first meeting, one of her pet rats died. According to Yearwood, quote, she showed me the rat's dead body. It was covered in flower petals and laid out on a tiny gold platform. The platform was suspended a few inches off the table with magnets. It was kind of incredible. She said to me, when one of my disciples steps into eternity, another must take its place. Are you ready to become my disciple? I said, I don't know, and she said, you must choose. It's got those edgelord vibes, doesn't it? Kind of intense for a first meeting. The second meeting involved a bonfire, and strange images were drawn on fabric and suspended all around the tree limbs. Then Zardulu appeared, but there were 3 Zardulus, 3 people wearing the exact same robes and Zardulu mask. They spoke simultaneously and said, you must choose the true Zardulu. They all did some display in front of him, and he randomly chose Zardulu number 2, but then they said, you chose poorly. We are all Zardulu, and Zardulu is none at all. Before running away screaming. This just feels so cringe to me. I don't know, it just feels so childish. It feels like adults acting like edgy teenagers. Doesn't it? Is that just me? Do people find this entertaining or just cringe? Let me know in the comments. And I know maybe I'm cringe, but cringe can recognize cringe. In his third meeting, Zardulu apparently painted runes on his face. Yearwood never really mentions this anywhere else, and it seems like he's spinning an increasingly preposterous tale. Del Signore is not taken in by any of this, finishing his article by saying in all caps, we want to believe in something that isn't so vapid. Please save us from these UCB actors. Oh, dude, Del Signore and me? Same page. The woman posing as Zardulu could be anyone, a friend, a member of the group, a paid model. The main form of communication with Zardulu in the media is via an email address that anyone can reply from. You'd have no way of knowing if a pink-haired, long-nailed, masked wizard is behind the keyboard or just a bored, out-of-work actor. I get the feeling that this is all done by bored, out-of-work actors who are into improv and a little bit cringe. And the last thing we'll mention is in the manifesto for Zardulism that can be seen in the background of the bagel pigeon on her, or their, Twitter feed. Its title, The Founding and Manifesto of Zardulism by Zardulu, features a woodcut print of a robed female figure removing or putting on a mask and holding a giant key. Inside are a few pages in Gothic calligraphy, although there are also several pages of weird runes or symbols. There are also a few images, including a stylized fish with 3 eyes, a skull with a keyhole in the forehead, and something that looks like a mustachioed Bigfoot. The manifesto bemoans the death of mythology and states that in our modern society, all that was once truthfully lived is now a mere effigy. Images have displaced authentic human interaction. It goes on to state that Zardulism is the art of creating and perpetuating myths. It even heavily suggests that Zardulu isn't actually one person, but indeed a group of people individually called Zardulists. Near the end it says, Zardulist myths may only be revealed to other Zardulists. Both in turn have an obligation to assist in the creation and perpetuation of the other's myth. The power of the Zardulist is immense, but increases exponentially when the efforts are combined. See, whoever wrote this is saying that there are multiple people involved. It ends with an appropriate description of Zardulu's stunts as pearls of merriment for the world to enjoy. To explore the Zardulu isn't a pink-haired woman, but rather a collection of unsuccessful male comedians theory a tad further. Yeah, the unsuccessful male comedians is just like on the nose, in my opinion. I think that's exactly what's happening. It's the sort of thing that I would think is incredibly funny when I was 14. I'd think this was genius if I was 14, but I'm not 14. I'm a 37-year-old man. Let's reintroduce Greg Boz, the catfish man who's friends with Eric Yearwood. He sent a Zardulu manifesto to a HuffPost reporter, saying that Zardulu had given it to him personally and it was only his only copy. However, he also sent photos of it beforehand, and the copy the reporter received had noticeable differences to the manifesto in the photos, i.e. Greg Boz definitely had more than one manifesto. When this was pointed out by HuffPost reporter Hilary Hansen, Boz didn't really have a good explanation, only stating, "We must have had a misunderstanding." It's not even well thought through. For me personally, I think Zardulu is a collective composed of at least two people, Yearwood and Boz. I'm on the fence about Matt Little and his friend, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were a part of it as well. Nobody knows who the official masked face of Zardulu is. Rereading the Gothamist article about this, it seems that John Del Signore had the same thought as me about Zardulu, retroactively creating props from existing stories, although it seems like he's gone really, really far down this particular rabbit hole. Regarding the Gowanus catfish, he writes, "It's also possible that Boz spent a few months making the fake fish himself, based off the fish in the video, and exploited an opportunity for free exposure in the Times, which only has his word to go on. If you think that's crazy, you haven't spent much time hanging around attention-starved improv comedy actors." Dude, was this the same guy? Del Signore is nailing this shit. Absolutely nailing it, dude. I think he's off in this particular instance. However, as the catfish was 100% a hoax any way you look at it, catfish wouldn't be able to live in the Gowanus Canal. Oh, okay, well done. And any experts seeing the photo have unanimously agreed that it's just a taxidermied fish with a fake eye glued to the top of its head. Boom! Solved. Mystery over. No one cares who did it. And I'd rather it just be done by some random teenager than this cringe group of out-of-work male actors. Sorry, guys. Sorry, it's just not that funny. You're probably also 10 years older now and also thinking it's pretty cringe. At least I kind of hope you are. This means that Boz would have been recreating something that was fake to begin with, which seems like a big waste of time. But let's wrap this up, shall we? We don't know exactly how many viral stories can be attributed to Zardulu, as she has hinted that there are many more than we don't know. Also, some just won't have achieved the same level of internet fame as others, but you have to admit that she has a knack of knowing what would catch people's attention in a way that was, on the face of it, not too unbelievable. Yeah, the Pitta one is so believable that I still think it's real. Do we know for sure that she was behind everything currently attributed to her? No, and there's no real way of knowing either. But just the fact that it could be a piece of urban myth-making and not just a mangy old rat dragging some food down some steps does make you take more notice of the world around you. Do we know that Zardulu is a lone artist enlisting the help of garrulous members of the public to help her viral endeavors? No, and I think that evidence actually points to a group of Zardulists working under the name rather than one solo artist, but again, it's kind of hard to prove either way. If they aren't Zardulu, Greg Boz and Eric Yearwood sure seem to know a lot about her and her philosophy and have the props and manifestos to prove it. I can't really work out if this means the concept of Zardulu is a hoax in itself, or it's just a means of hiding their identity while making funny little animal news stories. I mean, these guys, I imagine now, if you could engineer this kind of virality and get this kind of attention, there's definitely a career for you somewhere. Like, this kind of stuff is like, getting eyeballs on stuff is an art form. And these guys should just be pursuing that rather than cringe. For all the deep mythological backstories to the images produced, at the end of the day, the stories are reported as iguanas in toilets and a pigeon with a bagel around its neck. Unless you know Zardulu is behind them, you have no cause to wonder if a man being bitten on the testicles by a reptile was an illusion to Kronos rising from the underworld and castrating his father. You'd just double-check your toilet for a couple of days before sitting down. Double-check my toilet for a lifetime now. I think whatever the aim of Zardulism, it's been a success. People have been delighted and intrigued by many of the stories, videos, and pictures. Journalists have had field days with the original story and any follow-ups that there was actually someone behind them. The manifesto states there are myths that have done great good, and there are those that have done great harm. Zardulus myths exist outside this spectrum as pearls of merriment for the world to enjoy. Alright, chill guys. It's a rat with a slice of pizza. It's not that big of a deal. In this aspect, I think it's mission accomplished. Katie likes this more than I do. Zardulu hasn't posted anything on her social media since January 2023, so maybe the project has just run its course, or maybe there's a whole slew of videos of rats with various bread items that are just waiting to turn up in the spotlight. Maybe. Or maybe these people just grew up and got bored. That's the end of today's episode. Thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you.